You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Happy Friday and welcome. We are so happy to have you with us today. You are watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, Life's Amazing Journey. I am your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer. And with me today is my co-host, the legendary, the handsome, the dynamic, the successful Mr. John Christian. Welcome.
How do you live up to that? Thank you.
Oh, it's so nice to see your smiling face. You always look so happy.
Thank you. I'm good. And it's lovely to see you again, a week apart, aren't we?
Isn't it amazing how fast time goes by?
It's incredible, isn't it? You just blink and it's gone. It's like, oh, wow.
So, John, how are things going there? We talk about life's amazing journey. You are away from home. Yes. You left with a backpack for 10 days, and you have been in Portugal for many, many months. Is it a year yet?
I'm in my 10th month now. Yes. So got restricted because of the COVID stuff and all of that, and that's still going on in England. So it's not that easy to go back, and you can't have a normal life there right now. So I've been staying here where we're relatively free, and a few restrictions, but nothing like England. And I get to walk on the beach every day and enjoy myself. And
Sounds delightful.
Practices. Yeah, because I do a lot of yoga and meditation practices, and so this is the perfect place for me.
And we've got a great guest today. Before we bring him out, a couple of things. Since you are so successful in the entertainment industry and also as a coach helping transform lives, I would love it if you would just touch on what it's been like for your whole life to change through things that you had no control over. Because I think that really lets people know that your life can change on a dime, but you can make the best of it, like what's happened to you here.
My God. Yeah, well, the first major catalyst of change in my life was when, like most people, I was really in the mindset of I can only be happy when I'm rich and when I'm famous. And I'd been pursuing all of that for 17 years in my show business career, achieved the records and a modicum of fame, and was hanging out with the rich and famous of the world. And somebody invited me to sit in a meditation group, which I'd not heard of and thought was just only weirdos did that stuff. Oh, God, I've got to go with this weird mate that's asked me, but out of courtesy. Anyway, I went and I sat down and I literally had what is more commonly referred to nowadays as an out-of-body experience. And I was shown that there is so much more to us than we think there is when the consciousness expands. So I realized that there is a greater intelligence, regardless of what we try and define it with in labels. There's a far greater intelligence at work in all of us, and it enters into us in every breath, basically. It's all around us, but the spirit of it comes into us in every breath. And that's what we create from. So I've learned from that our intuitive intelligence is what in scriptural teachings, in the Christian story, they say, listen to the still small voice, trust that still small voice. So I've learned to do that because I knew it was always there, but I didn't know what it was, how to listen to it. Why is this? Why am I feeling sometimes in conflict with my thinking and my behavior? So that was the beginning of embarking on a journey of me seeking to understand how can it be that we can have moments of such high, instantaneous access to genius and intelligence and forget that and just fall into a limited process of thinking and a limited 5 sense perception of things. So I went on to train to be a yoga teacher, and I learned from the yogis in the East that there's an experience that they call the Kundalini experience, which is an expansion of consciousness where our super senses come into play. So now I spend my life pursuing that, in a nutshell.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. It just gives me the chills, because I think about how many times people are completely unwilling to try something new. And there you were, you didn't want to do it. You thought, oh, there's crazy people, which a lot of people think that about yogis or meditation, the woo-woo. So good for you. And think about all the lives that you've helped change by the fact that you went and did that and got out of your comfort zone.
It's a phenomenal, to understand the journey of life. And our guest today and we've traveled on this journey together. So we both have experiential knowledge from what it is to turn our little conditioned personality ego into something much more that's already within us, but trying to come through. The only thing is that most people, unfortunately, are not exposed to the right skills of how to recognize what they've already got and how to bring it into the daily marketplace of their personality and interactions.
And you're the person to help them with that. So I'm so glad you're here. Would you do us the honor of singing a song?
I'd love to, actually. And I've chosen a song today that is should be remembered by many people in America, and also in England, because it crossed the borders. And it was written by a lady called Mary John Wilkin, and made famous in America by Chris Christopherson. And then one of our artists picked it up, Lena Martell, and she made a huge success of it as well. So a song that can be remembered on both sides of the Atlantic. And it fits with life as an amazing journey. So it's Christian lyric orientated, and it's country style, and it's one day at a time.
I can't wait. So I'm going to spotlight you right now.
Thank you. Whoa. It's creeping up on me. Here we go. One day at a time, sweet Jesus. I'm only human, but I'm just a man. Help me believe in what I can be and all that I am. Show me the stairway that I have to climb. Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time, sweet Jesus. That's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, help me today, show me the way, one day at a time. Do you remember when you walked among men? Well, Jesus, you know, if you're looking below, it's worse now than then. There's cheating and stealing, violence and crime. So for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, help me today, show me the way, one day at a time.
Excellent. I had myself on mute and I was singing with you.
Oh, that's great. Hold on, I've got to turn this off.
Beautiful song and so uplifting. Perfect as we close out the week and head into the weekend. So thank you for that, John.
So apologies for the sound of anybody. I'm singing through my laptop, not professional system. So I hope it came across okay.
Once again, going with the conditions that you have, right? Making the best of it. It sounded fantastic.
Absolutely. Okay.
So you've brought us a great guest. What we're going to do is we're going to go to commercial break first, and then we'll bring him out so he's uninterrupted. We can just speak with him without worrying about the break. So our break today is going to be a little different than what I normally do. We are going to hear from a performer by the name of Ilo. And she was a guest on one of our shows, and I was so taken with her and her performance. Her record label is Licorice Dragon Records. Her name is Ilo, as I mentioned, and her song is Heroes in Disguise. You can purchase her song over on Apple, on iTunes. And here we go. And then we'll be right back with John and our guest, Stephen Haslam. Stay with us.
Great.
Picture this, a life where you can leave your pain, a life where you can start again somehow. Picture this, a vision that can change a prayer, happy heart that's always there in the now. So don't be afraid of fear. You'll know as long as we're still here. We can be anything larger than life, rise up from the ground. We can fall down over 10,000 times, then turn it all right back around. We never imagine how good life can be, but inside you and me we can see past these ghosts in the mirror. We're heroes in disguise, heroes in disguise. Picture this, losing everything you got, never having had a lot, but holding on and on and on. Don't be afraid to dream, 'cause we are so much closer than it seems. We can be anything larger than life, rise up from the ground. We can fall
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back. You are watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, Life's Amazing Journey, and I get to spend my time with this guy over here, John Christian, who is a legend in the entertainment industry and also as a coach transforming lives. He's an author. We do have a couple of comments, John. Power Voice, very nice Facebook user, and that's actually Daphne DeLucci, even though we can't see the name for some reason. And I'm not sure who this one is, but beautiful girl, great song. So, John, tell us about our guest, Stephen Haslam.
Stephen, for me personally, is the kind of person anybody would love to have as a business partner. And he's actually business partner with one of our former guests, Dr. Rob Pennington, who was the first guest on the show, actually.
Great.
And so Stephen is, as I know him, is the perfect support man. And he's also a perfect front man too. So he's got all these skills and talents. So we're going to encourage him to be the front man today for himself and for the company he's working for. So, and a very interesting topic is going to be pretty much our main theme. And that is, why do people get on our nerves?
Oh, that's a good one. All right. Yeah. Joining us live from Houston. Welcome to the program, Stephen.
Hello, Jacalyn. Hey, John. All these people with beautiful voices. I'm thinking, what am I doing here? You are not going to ask me to start singing, right?
Stephen, I am.
Getting on my nerves.
What a great topic. Before we get into why we get on each other's nerves, John gave you a great intro, but we love to hear from you. What is it that you do, and what is the value you bring to this beautiful world?
Well, some of your viewers may know that may have met my business partner, Rob Pennington. We're based in Houston, Texas, do mostly trainings, coaching, team and executive development, mostly in corporations, but we've worked in so many different types of organizations over the 40 years that we've been working together. Rob is the motivational, pick you up and inspire you kind of guy, just like John is. I'm the guy who comes on behind to make sure that what we're delivering, is grounded, has teeth, is actually going to help you get the results that you need to get.
Yeah. And superbly well you guys do it too.
Excuse me, Rob, John?
Superbly well you both do it as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
I think of how important it is if you are the face or the brand of the company, you need a team of people behind you to make it happen, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, when I first got into this type of business, John and I, way back in the 70s, I didn't get into it to be a speaker. I wanted to know what goes on behind the scenes. These spiritual type people, or these leaders who have a great influence on others. What are they like when they're not on the stage? What are they like behind the scenes? How do they live their lives? How do they become the kind of people that we all see when they get on stage to share these inspiring things? And so that's what I was doing, was learning the business, learning all different aspects of the business, providing the support. And every once in a while doing that, John, you might remember this, I'd find out that the speaker didn't show up, or they just weren't ready on time. And, the show's got to go on. So someone's got to be ready. So I figured, I better start. I've been hearing these things from the background. I better start getting ready to go on stage if the speaker's not there. Yeah. And that's actually what pushed me in that direction. It's not because I chose to do it.
And the important thing, just jumping in here, is the mentor that Stephen and I had then, Paul Solomon, his whole process was teaching us about these moments that he referred to as like big and small initiations into real life skills. So I think Stephen will agree with me that although he didn't want to do that, like I very often do want to do things, life managed to arrange for him to go to a whole nother level and become a speaker.
Yeah, it's not just a whole nother level, a whole different universe than I was expecting. And Paul was, he was at once the most inspiring person I've ever met and the most infuriating at the same time. Yeah, we can both agree on that. And he could do both at the same time. He could inspire you and piss you off. So what I learned from him was, like I said, it wasn't just about sitting in the classroom listening to inspiring stories. It was about how you live your life. And to me, the message that I caught, and he would always say this, he said, these deep teachings that people want to get into, what they're really all about is character development.
Yes.
And people would go, wow, that sounds deep. And then they want to hear another inspiring story. But character development isn't inspiring. It's hard work. And you've got to work on it every day. And it's not like, okay, I got my character developed and I'm ready to go now. No, it's like you keep on doing it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Stephen, question I have for you. When you were behind the scenes and we're talking about character development, how often, if ever, did you find that the speaker that you saw on the stage was not the same person behind the scenes?
Wow. Well, I won't answer the how often. I'll share an example that I think, John, you've heard me talk about Paul Solomon this way. He would sometimes actually deliberately do things that was different from what people expected of him. And so it's like we all have these expectations, what should this leader be like? What should this spiritual person be like? And so I would see Paul, doing these talks about how our judgments get in the way of really understanding one another and caring about one another and respecting one another. And people would be looking at his personal life to see if they thought they should listen to his teachings about how we shouldn't judge one another. And I would think, wait a minute, he's trying to give us something here, and yet we're judging whether we should listen to him teach about how not to judge one another. And he would actually do things exactly the opposite of what you would expect of a spiritual teacher. We had this one guy who came to town, worked with us for a while, who was convinced you could be more spiritual if you're a vegetarian. And so what Paul would do is invite him out to breakfast or lunch at McDonald's. Just to kind of point out, it isn't just about being vegetarian that makes you spiritual. It's also the way you place judgments on other people. So what Paul was trying to teach us was, look, you can learn from anybody in any situation, even from people who you might judge as being less evolved than you. And so Paul was trying to tell us, learn from one another, not just from a person who's up on a stage.
Good message.
Absolutely.
And difficult. But like I said, Paul could really get on your nerves, and by doing things like that, putting us, John and I, in situations where, we're not ready for that. But you got to step forward and push yourself through the blocks and barriers that you tend to have.
He did the same to many of us, actually, because we were confident in certain areas. I was confident as a performer. And then one day he said to me, I want you to introduce me at every Sunday service. And I went, oh God, right, oh blimey, I've got to introduce the guru, get the audience ready. Oh yeah, I've been doing this for years, no problem. And I couldn't believe, I felt like I'd gone back to step one, because now I had to be a confident speaker. like Stephen was saying, right? And Paul has spotted that I didn't have my self-esteem there. So every Sunday I had to get up and overcome that and develop to the level that I developed as a singer, comedian, impressionist. But I wasn't as a speaker. And he saw it, and he puts us in that spot.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the things we need to be aware of when we feel someone getting on our nerves? We feel the hairs on our start to stand up. What do we do?
Well, a habit that I think most of us have is, we have certain expectations of how we would like people to treat us. And when they don't behave that way, we feel uncomfortable. And when we feel uncomfortable, we make a negative judgment. Oh, no, they shouldn't be doing that. What they're doing is wrong. But not only do we make a negative judgment about their behavior, we make a negative judgment about their motive. If they really loved me, they wouldn't have done that. If they really respected me, they wouldn't treat me that way. And as soon as we make that negative judgment, we're taking it personally. And we have this, as a result of that, we have this automatic reaction. And the automatic reaction is usually a negative reaction meant to get that other person's attention so that they will stop doing what they're doing. The problem is we're not aware of how we're doing these things. It's unconscious, and the reaction is so quick. A general example, let's say we've got everybody in family A, and everybody in family A loves everybody else in family A. But in family A, we just don't talk about it. You don't say the words, I love you, over and over again. You don't need to say the words because you know that you love each other. And in family A, that's how you know somebody really loves you, because you don't really have to keep saying it. On the other hand, you got family B. In family B, everybody loves everybody else. But we're always saying, I love you, hug, kiss, kiss, kiss. We write little Post-it notes, with a heart in it. Good morning, I love you. We talk to each other on the phone during the day. Oh, nothing to talk about. I just wanted to say I love you. Goodbye. In family B, that's how you know somebody really loves you, because they're always saying it. What's going to happen when person A gets together with person B? How's person A going to feel always being told, I love you, I love you? Uncomfortable, because, person A is thinking, look, I know when somebody really loves me. They don't have to keep saying the word. Therefore, if they're saying it, they must be saying it for some other reason. And the funny thing is, person A can always find something that person B is doing that is not in his list of this is how things should be done. So person A can always find the reasons why, see, I know you didn't really love me, because if you really love me, you wouldn't be doing that. How's person B going to feel? Never being told I love you. Rejected, hurt. You used to love me. Don't you love me anymore? And, A's over here thinking, look, I told you I love you when we got together. If I ever change my mind, I'll let you know. And it's like completely logical to each side, but we're making this judgment about why a person behaves the way that they're behaving that gets on our nerves. That's not really why they're doing that thing. And this ends up happening. I mean, both of you, do you remember when you first fell in love? Remember that time? It's like this. When you first fall in love, there's this feeling of our love will conquer all things, and our love will get us through everything in the future. And the reason that you feel that way is it's a chemically altered state. You have all these, epinephrine, norepinephrine, oxytocin, dopamine, these chemicals going through your system that just make you feel fantastic. And we make this assumption, because I feel this good, people will want to do things the way that I think they should be done because they love me. And this ends up being with all kinds of little behaviors, things like the cap goes back on the toothpaste. The toothpaste tube, you roll it, you squeeze it from the bottom, not just from the top, and you don't want to waste all that toothpaste. Don't know if you knew I love you. The toilet paper rolls this way, not that rolls forward. If you look at the pattern, it's meant to roll forward. And Jacalyn, you would know this one. The toilet seat goes down, guys.
Yes.
And at first, I just say it, don't know if you knew I love you. But after the third, fourth, or 10th time, I have to tell you. Eventually, it's, how many times do I have to tell you the toilet seat goes down? See, we start to associate these little things with whether the person loves me or not. And, it's just a little, we make mountains out of molehills. We let all these little behaviors build up because we're applying this meaning. It doesn't love me. They don't respect me. When really, it has nothing to do with that. John, you may have heard Rob tell this story one time. He had a client coming to him, actually this couple coming to him for marriage counseling. The woman came with a list of all the things her husband had done since they got married that proved that he didn't love him. And Rob said, why are you keeping this list? And she said, so that when we get divorced, I'll have the evidence. This is like the booby prize. You don't want to be right about this. You don't want to make a list like this and have the person go, you're right. Now that you pointed out, I see, I don't love you. But we have a tendency to do this, and it's unconscious. But what it comes down to, all these little things, like the cap on a toothpaste and the toilet paper roll, they're just agreements that we're making with one another. They don't have that meaning. And I'll share a personal example. My wife's name is Myrrh, as in frankincense and myrrh. And one time, her parents came to live with us for a couple of months. Her dad was going for medical treatment here at the Houston Medical Center. Have you ever had a chance to live with your in-laws for a couple of months? Because they represent all these different ways of doing things that are just a little strange and uncomfortable. And I remember I'd come home from work, we'd sit down to dinner, we'd have dinner. Now, I was brought up in a home where you were taught it's polite to clean up your own plate. Don't leave a mess that somebody else has to clean up. So when I was finished with dinner, we'd sit around, we'd be talking for a few minutes. I'd take my plate, I'd go into the kitchen to clean my plate, and I find the kitchen is a mess. I mean, there's stuff piled in the sink and all over the counters. I can't even clean up my plate. I've got to clean up their mess. And I'm thinking, well, they've been just like sitting here all day long. They could have cleaned up these plates. You know why? You know what? They left them there because they knew I always do the cleaning. And it got to the point where day after day after day, I'm coming home, and on the drive home, I'm thinking, I know this plate's going to be a mess. So I'd sit down to dinner, I'd eat as fast as I can, I'd get up and I'd get in there to clean up their mess. And after a couple of months, we ended up visiting them in their home. And I decided I'm going to see how the dishes ever got cleaned up in this family. So what I did was we ate dinner. I literally had to sit on my hands to keep me from getting up and cleaning up my plate. And I just waited, and we kept talking, and we kept talking. And eventually, my mother-in-law got up, she cleared the table, she brought all the things into the kitchen. Where do you think she put them? She just stacked them in the sink, and she came back in with dessert and drinks. And we sat around and talked for about a half an hour. And after this, I described to Myrrh what I had been noticing. And she said, yeah, when they were living with us, they were asking me, why does doesn't Stephen like to talk with us? He just like jumps up, runs away to get busy doing all kinds of stuff. It was a total misunderstanding. I thought they were leaving the dishes because they knew I'd clean them up and they didn't want to bother with it. They thought I was running away. And actually, I was running away. I didn't want to talk to them because they were leaving a mess for me. I was acting on this judgment that was wrong. And this is what we do is we make these judgments about why people are doing these things that get on our nerves. And we act on that judgment as if it's actually true. when most of the time it's not true.
Yeah.
But by acting on it, it can create a self-fulfilling prophecy like I did. And so what I decided to do in my own life, these days, I will leave plates in the sink and not clean them up. Just because I've learned, gee, that's what was familiar with me. In fact, right now, I left something in the sink this morning before I came to join y'all. And every time I do that now, I think, she'll love me. She'll feel comfortable. You know, it's just like, but the big thing is, I don't take it personally anymore. And based on that, it's a lot easier to work out these little differences and make agreements about how to get along. Yeah. That's a long answer to a short question.
That was a great one. So, Steve, would you say that one of the main sources of misunderstandings is disappointed expectations?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have these ideals about how people should be, and you know, we push our ideal onto that person, but we don't actually talk about what we're expecting, and you know, don't work out. Is that really what they want? I don't know. Are you kind of thinking about what I was talking about recently about my relationship with Murr? Is that what made you think of that? John heard me do a talk about a month ago where I was describing this meditation practice, basically, that my wife and I would do, where we would be sitting together with one another and doing a meditation where we're trying to see the best in the other person. It's kind of tricky because, but from doing it day after day, year after year, now that I look back on it, what I realized I was doing is I was projecting, this is what Myrrh will be when she evolves and becomes the best partner for me. And I was projecting my expectation onto her. But one of these times I was looking into her eyes and I realized she's not doing that. She's looking at me as if I really am that person that she's in love with. And I realized, geez, I'm not even looking at her. I'm not seeing her. I'm kind of covering over her with this image of, as long as I keep meditating with you like this, you will evolve and become the perfect partner for me. And I didn't see her as being perfect. And eventually what I learned was she's not perfect. She's better than perfect. She's surprising. She does things that I never would have expected. Oh, wow. When that comes out of her mouth, I think, whoa, I didn't see that coming. That's better than this. What perfection is this, you know, cold, hard, never changing, never growing and evolving, and can't love you back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found myself really relating to a lot of the examples that you gave, because I definitely have been in relationships where I'm very much, I love you, and the other person doesn't say it very much, and you end up getting angry and resentful, and then you start losing your confidence, right? You start feeling like neglected, and meanwhile, that's not the case at all, but you have an expectation that the other person, you're not in agreement with how you're going to treat each other, how you're going to speak to each other, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess I realize I'm making this impression that, oh, all these things are just little things and you shouldn't take them seriously. And you know, sometimes these little expectations are just preferences. Sometimes they're fundamental requirements, you know. In the nature of this relationship, this is what I expect. And if you don't behave that way, I'm willing to change the nature of the relationship. You know, so I learned I didn't marry Myrrh to be my maid. I married her to be my life partner. So I can clean up the dishes. That's not a big deal. I don't have to take that personally. But we do have an agreement about monogamy. Recognize that people grow and change as they go through life. I just know that if she ever came to me and said, you know, Stephen, that agreement that we had about monogamy, I'd like to renegotiate that agreement because I've kind of changed on that one. No, that's something I'm willing to change the nature of the relationship for. Personally, I'm fortunate I've got a partner who totally agrees with that one and, you know, doesn't want to change it. But these are agreements. It's not that it's right or it's wrong. And we just don't know how to talk through making these agreements. And I realize I'm talking about this in the context of personal relationships, loving one another. At the same time, the same concept applies at work, although you may not go to work and wonder whether your boss is going to love you today. But we all do have expectations about respect. What behaviors are the appropriate behaviors to show respect for one another, to show professionalism, to hold one another accountable? And when you go into an organization, it's like being in a step family. These people from different family systems who come together with different expectations of how to behave. And very often what organizations will do is somebody will write up a list of, here are our values and here are the behaviors that we expect people to meet to show those values. But just to print them on a wall or on a piece of paper is not really going to get people to buy into them. And so we'll very often go into work in organizations to get people talking about them. And you'd be surprised if you ask people the right questions to pull out what they're looking for from one another and just have them talk about it. They'll really all arrive at a lot of the same agreements about how they want to be respected. And by having them talk about it, they can understand, oh, that's what you mean when you behave that way. That's not what I was thinking, but okay, now that I understand where you're coming from, that's okay. Like, and John, I'll share another example from Paul.
Yeah.
When I was working with him, did you ever get into like an argument with him?
One or two times.
You ever win an argument with him? I doubt that.
Gentlemen, we just have to take a break and hear from some of our sponsors, and then we'll hear about the arguments when we return, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
No argument with that.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back. You are still watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, Life's Amazing Journey with my co-host, Mr. John Christian, and our guest, Stephen Haslam. Stephen is the managing partner at Resource Associates International and was leading us through a lively conversation about why people get on our nerves and what we can do about it. So before we went to break, we were just about to hear how you guys had been angry or had people getting your nerves, or so. Please share your example.
Yeah, I was sharing an example of working with a boss who was constantly interrupting me. He would call me into his office when he got stuck on a project, and he would start telling me, he'd ask me a question, what we should do about this, and I'd get about a sentence and a half out of my mouth, and then he would interrupt me and go, no, you know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. And this would happen over and over again until the point I just clam up because I'm thinking, look, he doesn't really respect what I have to say. He's just picking on me. He's always pointing out that I'm wrong. See, I was brought up in a family where I was taught things like, it's not polite to interrupt. Listen to me while I'm speaking to you. If you don't have something nice to say, a lot of people get this one, don't say anything at all. And I remember, don't talk back to me. I'm your mother. So there were certain behaviors that were just, common to me about how to show respect when you're speaking to somebody else. This guy grew up in a different family. And I learned from a friend of his that when he was in high school, he was the Texas high school debate champion. He got prizes and recognition for his ability to argue about anything. He could take one side of the argument and win, and then take the other side and win at that. But the thing that never would have occurred to me that his friend pointed out was he only argues with people whose opinions he respects. So here he is choosing to bring me into his office to argue with me thinking that shows he disrespects me, and him thinking actually he respected me more than he respected anybody else. Total misunderstanding. I still didn't like being interrupted. And he needed to hear what I had to say. But once I realized, what's getting on my nerves really is the result of my own judgment that I'm misunderstanding. It was easier to have a conversation with him and work out some agreements to make sure, Paul, let me just finish my thought because I've got information that you're asking for and that you need. As soon as you realize you're making a judgment about the other person's behavior, suspend that judgment and get curious to find out where they're really coming from. And maybe I don't have to take this personally. We can work something out that works for both of us. And it's easier said than done.
I like that. I like that. Take a second before you speak. Just think about the other person's perspective or where they're coming from.
Yeah, get curious about where they are. And, as I'm sure Rob probably shared in his show, take a step back, take a deep breath, relax, reassure yourself. This is not personal. Look for something positive and see the humor in the situation. I mean, if you laugh at yourself in these tense situations, you'll always have something to laugh at. So it's just easy to find the humor in the situation if you're looking for it, if you're not taking it personally, because it's never personal. People are behaving the way that they're behaving for reasons that they don't know, that basically have nothing to do with you. It's never personal.
I can share a quick story again, relating back to our early training with Paul, where he came in one day and the whole group was there, and he said, I've just got this new approach to communication. John, I want you to go down in the audience and take part. And I just told you that he'd been making me get up and introduce him. And every Sunday I saw this one person in about 200 every Sunday who was fidgeting and doing it. And I've gone, he doesn't like me. So I'm trying not to see him every Sunday. And then during the week, I'm wishing he won't be there next Sunday. And now he's got to like this thumb that you've hit with a hammer, And so I go into the audience and guess who's my partner?
It's always that way.
I can't believe it, and I've learned enough to kind of hear this cosmic sense of humor, and so I sit down with this guy and we have to go, when I see you doing this, and we mirror to them, I think that means, and I feel, and I choose to believe, and I want to tell you, right? So I'm there and my ego's going, I'm going to find out now, this guy really doesn't like me, what shall I do? So I went through those steps, and I said, and I don't think you like me. And he went white, and I thought, see, got you. And they went, oh my God. And he said it with such depth and feeling. Again, my ego went, ha, 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 and my soul went, oh my God, like, what's coming now? And he said, I've been coming back here every Sunday, looking at you and thinking, what do I like about this man? And in that moment, honestly, it was such an awakening. In that moment, I literally saw how many times had I, or all of us, done that to each other, and never sat down and had a conversation and found out how wrong we can be.
Absolutely. I used to travel a lot before the pandemic when I was in corporate, and invariably I'd be at the airport and there would be someone or a family or something, and they were being loud or they were standing up for some reason. And I thought, oh my gosh, I hope I'm not going to be next to one of them on the plane. And of course, every time pretty much, who's sitting next to me? And it turns out they're really nice people. And the reason they're behaving that way was something had happened prior to them getting there. And I thought, wow, making a judgment like that is horrible. And you really need to open your mind, because you just never know what somebody's thinking or what they're going through.
You don't.
Wow, what a great topic. I'm so glad that you've been here today, Stephen, and really give us all something to think about.
Yeah, there's no doubt that you're going to run into somebody today, or at least this week, who gets on your nerves. So you're going to have lots of opportunity to practice this stuff.
So, Stephen, I think our listeners and viewers would probably like to give us an encapsulation. What would you actually deem as a dysfunctional or a functional relationship? What does it require? Wow.
In business practices, and it's certainly true in relationships, a functional team is a team that's willing to talk about its dysfunction. Anytime you go into a group where they say, oh, we're always happy and everything works out and we've got no challenges or misunderstandings, what you have is denial. there's always going to be differences. Sweeping them under the rug just gets those little molehills to end up building up until they become mountains. And they're a lot easier to deal with one at a time when they're just at the molehill level. And the same thing in personal relationships. If we just quickly talk with the other person about whatever that behavior is that's different, that makes me uncomfortable, without making it personal, we find it's a heck of a lot easier just to make agreements to either get the person to change. Maybe they're willing to make an adjustment. It wasn't a big deal to them. Or for you to go, okay, well, don't worry, that won't bother me anymore. As long as, and so one of the things that we do, you don't just take people through making agreements. You talk with them also about, okay, now that you made an agreement and we have this ideal that we're setting, let's talk about how we're going to deal with it when someone falls off the wagon and doesn't act the way that you expect. How can we respectfully call one another on that behavior so that we're actually inviting the input from the other person, so it's more comfortable for them and they don't have to feel, get themselves all revved up before they ask for your input or give you some feedback.
Yeah. Okay.
Functional teams talk about their dysfunction.
When you have a situation, which I come up against as a coach sometimes, where you've got a person who just does not want to shift against somebody else, the only conclusion you can come to is, can you agree to disagree? How do you cope with it?
Well, I really hate that phrase, agreeing to disagree, because you can agree to disagree, but when you and I can have all kinds of opinions about things. What comes down to action? What's going to be done? What's the effect? What's the result? And if a person needs to do certain types of behaviors in order to be functional, then if they can't make that change, then maybe they can't have that job. Yeah. We actually had one of these one time. A person was referred to us for coaching because he kept making what were inappropriate comments to some of his direct reports. And we coached him on this. And what we tried to get him to do was to be able to listen to what the other person was saying and respond to that before he shared his opinion about it. And we went over and over and over trying to get him to do it. He literally couldn't do it. Rob was doing. I brought Rob in to do this with me because he didn't believe what I was saying. And Rob said, "Here, I'm going to say da 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 da, and I just want you to repeat that." And the guy just talked about what he thought Rob was trying to get him to. No, that's not what I want you to do. I want you to just say this. He couldn't do it. Basically, this guy, for whatever his reasons were, wasn't willing to make the change that was required for him to have this position of leadership in the organization. And eventually they had to move him. So yeah, there sometimes do have to be fundamental requirements or the nature of the relationship will be changed. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Really good stories, content, and thought-provoking comments that all of us can learn from. So thank you again, Stephen. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you? We are streaming your banner, but for people who are listening on the radio.
Successfulworkrelationships.com is the easiest thing to remember. You go to that site and there's all kinds of material that's free about all of this communication and teamwork, how to get along, and it'll have links for how to reach out to either me or to Rob if there's anything more that we can provide to you.
The dynamic duo.
Stephen, give us one golden rule.
Be curious about where people are coming from, because it's usually not where you're expecting.
Perfect.
Love it.
Well said. Thank you for
Thank
being
you again.
here.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend.
and love to Mer, and I hope she's at the sink cleaning up that plate for you.
I am going to go right into the kitchen and see if it's still there.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. You're a great guest. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, thanks so much for bringing him to this show. I love a lot of the things he said really made me think, and I'm still thinking about them.
Yeah.
That curiosity.
And this is the great thing now, I mean, that's what we've learned as coaches is how do you inspire real thinking nowadays, so people really go, oh man, that's a good, I'd never thought about that. That's another way to look at this.
What do you have planned for the weekend, John? Anything fun?
I'm getting together with some friends here, new friends that I've made in Albufeira is where we are. So and a bit of kayaking is on the list.
Oh, that
and
sounds
also,
great.
I've got online coaching sessions that I've got to run as well with people from America, actually. Yeah, from Los Angeles.
Wow, that's fantastic. Let me bring up some of your visuals and share with us what we're looking at, please.
Thank you. Life Shift Stories. This is a book that I was asked to contribute my turnaround experience to, along with 11 other writers and storytellers, and you can purchase it on Amazon. And this is Life Skills for Life Balance. This is my online training program. So within that, I've put 10 modules, each of which deal with different aspects of our character and nature in order to continually develop a good strength of character, as Stephen was saying. So it's build self-trust, self-confidence, trust your intuitive intelligence, become skilled at the art of relationships, learn to manage change masterfully, and establish balance in mind, body, and spirit. So they're the kind of things I do with people, getting some great results, I'm very pleased to say. And like I say to them, every session is as much for me as it is for the people I'm working with, because I'm always getting new insights for myself. And how to develop intuitive intelligence. Of late, I've been doing much more work around this, and I've been invited to lecture in universities and schools on developing intuition as a higher faculty of our natural intelligence. But in the Western world, we've tended to primarily put the focus on the development of rational, logical, deductive process more than high sense, intuitive, gut feeling process. So like we were just saying with Stephen here, the connection between what the head tells you to what the feelings are saying is, it can seem a million miles apart, but when you know how to integrate the mind with the breath, with the emotions in the body, you become a more holistic communicator, because you have much more sense of self and self's character. So you can learn from yourself. Whoops, I didn't do that very well. So how do I correct that and move on?
Brilliant. Thank you so much, John. It's always a pleasure seeing you and being here, bringing your guests and just learning from you and from Stephen today.
Thank you. It's great to be on the show, and you're doing fantastic. 18 shows a week now.
Yes, and I have to say one of the biggest challenges is standing, because I stand for all the shows, and I'm hoping that I can keep going, because it's hard. But right, there's a lot of things in life that are hard.
Well, we have to put together a retreat where you can come and we can just spoil you, and all you do is take care of you.
Oh, that sounds so delightful. It really does. Thank you again, John. I'll look forward to chatting with you over the weekend. Have a great time kayaking. And thank you again, Stephen, for being here.
Have another amazing guest next Friday. So we'll see everybody then.
Woo! Are you going to tell us or just keep us in limbo?
I'm going to keep you in limbo.
Okay.
I like surprises.
I like surprises too. All right. Thank you again. It was great seeing you. And I hope you have a beautiful, blessed day.
You too. Bye-bye.
What a great show. Fabulous co-host, amazing guest. I am so blessed and lucky. I hope that you really enjoyed the show as much as I did. We've got another fabulous show coming up. It's called A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And my expert presenters today are Daphne DeLucci and Red O'Loughlin. So I hope you'll join us for that. We do have 8 shows today. What? Yes. My hair is going to get shorter and shorter. We have 8 shows today, and everybody is bringing their A game. So I hope that you'll come back and join us. You don't have to go anywhere. Just stay right here where you are, and we'll be back in less than half an hour with A Better You. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you again, hopefully very soon.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at DianeFloydBoehm.com. Visit DianeFloydBoehm.com. That's DianeFloydBoehm.com.